get started. Good evening and welcome to the I-270 project webinar. Thanks for taking time to learn about the project. We're excited to share the progress we've made. We are conducting this webinar in English and Spanish, and we need to go over a few logistics before we get started with our presentation and question and answer session. Raquel?
Disculpen, tenía el micrófono, I was in mute. Muy buenas noches, bienvenidos al webinar del proyecto I-270. Muchas gracias por estar aquí y unirse con nosotros para informarles sobre este importante proyecto. Vamos a manejar este seminario web en inglés y en español y vamos a repasar algunas logísticas antes de empezar con la presentación y el proceso de preguntas y respuestas.
My name is Mandy Wharton, and I will be the moderator for the English language session. Raquel Carpillo will be interpreting on the Spanish channel. To join the Spanish audio, click on the interpretation or that globe icon at the bottom of your screen and select Listen in Spanish. And we also have Amber here doing ASL, and if you would like to have that in your screen, you can also click on the same globe and select ASL.
Mi nombre es Mandy Wharton y estoy aquí para ser la moderadora de la sesión en inglés. Mi persona, Raquel Carpio, estará haciendo la interpretación en español, en el canal de español. Para unirse al audio en español, solo haga clic en el menú de interpretación, donde está el icono del globo, y seleccione Escuchar en español. Y para inglés, seleccione Escuchar en inglés o solo manténgase aquí. Y para lenguaje de señas, usted puede hacer la selección como se dice.
All right. So this meeting is going to be divided between a presentation by our project team and then a question and answer session in the second half of the meeting. So please feel free as we're going through the presentation to type in questions as you have them, and we'll get to those at the end. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will be publishing the questions and answers after the webinar. We also will be publishing the webinar recording, and this meeting is being recorded and will be available on the project website, as was the webinar that we did last week on Thursday. We do have several polls that we'll be conducting through the webinar. So there's a QR code there, and also I think Jess has put into the chat the web address where you can join the polls. The polls all advance throughout the presentation, and you only need to join one time. You can complete your answers throughout the webinar, so we'll leave a little bit of time for answers to come through so we can all see the results in real time. But if you don't have time to type in your answers, or if you have additional questions, please feel free to either use the polling or the Q&A session. And we're ready to get started with our presentation. So with Raquel and me here today, we have members of our project team. Ashley Oriana, the engineering design lead, is filling in for David Morenich, the I-270 project director, who is sick. He is here available, but and will be here for questions and answers, but is not feeling up to doing the presentation, which is also true for my colleague Christian Jimenez, who Raquel is pinch hitting for today because he has been sick. So we do have Basil Ryer, who's back from being sick, and he is our I-270 environmental manager, and he'll be talking through some of the environmental issues on the project. So we're going to start with Ashley, and she's going to provide some background on the I-270 project, review some of the alternatives we've developed, and then talk through what we're evaluating in detail through the EIS process. Then we're going to talk about the environmental review process and how the analysis works. And then we have a little bit of time at the end to go through question and answers. And then I'm sorry that I also forgot to mention that we have Stacia Sellers here with us, who is the I-270 communications manager, and she will be reviewing some of the outreach that we have done and some of the things we've heard from the public. So again, keep your questions coming. We will be monitoring those throughout the session and look forward to that discussion at the end of the meeting. Ashley. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to do a poll first. The first poll that we have, and this is just kind of to get us up and going on the polling situations. I'll give you a minute to scan the QR code or enter in that that website address. So we were interested in how you heard about this webinar, from a postcard, from an email, if you heard from a neighbor or a friend, community event, a news story, social media. We've been doing a lot of outreach in the community and trying to reach people in as many ways as possible. So whatever, we'd like to keep that coming. If you have other suggestions on outreach, we will be looking for those opportunities as well. But I'll give you just a minute here on having these come up. It looks like we have a few on social media and a few on postcards. We did send out many thousands of postcards, and hopefully those were received and were things that were helpful to you. We also see that a lot of you are receiving information through digital formats, which makes sense since you're here participating in this webinar. So I'll just give a minute here for those to come up, and then we will go into our project presentation. All right. And again, if you are late on the polling, you can keep filling that in as we go through the presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to Ashley now.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us today to learn about the I-270 Corridor Improvements Project. This corridor is one of Colorado's most critical transportation routes, connecting key highways like I-25, I-70, and I-76. It serves as an economic backbone for the region, facilitating commerce, freight movement, and local travel while supporting thousands of jobs and businesses. The infrastructure on I-270 is over 50 years old and failing. Narrow shoulders, short ramps, and outdated designs create serious safety risks, while congestion causes frustrating delays and disrupts freight efficiency. Without action, these problems will only worsen, impacting both our economy and our quality of life. That's why CDOT is fully committed to addressing these challenges. This project will modernize the corridor, replacing deteriorating infrastructure, enhancing safety, and reducing congestion. We're prioritizing solutions that minimize environmental impacts, improve connectivity for pedestrians and cyclists, and reflect the values and priorities of the surrounding communities and traveling public. Oh, Mandy, you were muted.
Thank you, Ashley. We are going to jump into our second poll. So based on what you know, interacting with the I-270 corridor or some of the information that Ashley provided, what do you think are the biggest issues or concerns for the project to address? And this one is one where you can type in anything and we will display your answers in a word cloud. So we will start to see what some priorities of what the things are that are most important here for our project to address. Congestion and safety are some big ones. So those are definitely things that we are aware of and understand are important needs for the project. I see reduction of VMT, which is vehicle miles traveled, for those of you that are not familiar with the acronym. So, getting more people through the corridor efficiently, reducing regional travel, maybe changing some mode choices there. A lot of information about highway solutions, like widening the highway or addressing small shoulders. Definitely some environmental issues there, some polluted water. Uh, how much land you will use. And we will be getting into that as well. So a lot of good information here that, and if you have a specific question that you want to address, please do feel free to type that in the question and answer. It's really a lot of good traffic or a lot of good transportation and environmental issues, which is very much in the scope of things that we're looking at. So I'm going to go back to Ashley now to talk a little bit through the project schedule and the environmental impact assessment process that we are underway.
Here's our project schedule. As mentioned in previous presentations, we're currently in the midst of the National Environmental Policy Act environmental review, which is being conducted as an environmental impact statement, or also referred to as an EIS. The EIS is a comprehensive review of potential ways to improve the I-270 corridor, referred to as alternatives. The EIS also carefully documents environmental and community impacts, as well as our commitments to mitigate any negative effects identified during this process. And while CDOT understands the urgency to act, we also understand the importance of getting it right. So we're working closely with residents, businesses, and stakeholders to ensure that the final design balances immediate needs with long-term sustainability and equity. Once the National Environmental Policy Act process is complete, we plan to move into final design and construction of the project. As the first phase of construction, we would prioritize replacing deficient bridges that are at the end of their useful life. In the next slide, I'll provide more detail about the EIS process and what you can expect through this environmental impact analysis phase. Excuse me. The NEPA process is both structured and adaptable, allowing us to address technical challenges while responding to community concerns. At this stage in the EIS, we have developed alternatives that meet the project needs, which we will talk about more later in the presentation. We're now analyzing these alternatives in detail, focusing on their potential impacts on the environment and the community. This analysis includes identifying ways to mitigate any negative effects and incorporating enhancements that benefit the broader project area. If everything proceeds as planned, we anticipate releasing the draft EIS in the first quarter of 2026. The draft EIS represents a major milestone in the process. It provides a comprehensive analysis of the alternatives, along with proposed mitigation strategies. Public and agency input on the draft EIS is critical, as it is the formal opportunity to provide comments. Ideally, effective outreach efforts will have ensured that the information in the draft EIS reflects what we've heard from stakeholders so far. CDOT and FHWA will carefully consider and respond to all comments on the draft EIS before finalizing the EIS and issuing the Record of Decision, or ROD, which is the last step in the EIS. I am going to turn it over to Stacia Sellers, our communications manager, to review some of the input about the project so far and the ways that we are gathering community feedback.
Great, thank you, Ashley. Our project team has been hard at work. We've participated in over 100 events and engaged with hundreds of people to understand what matters most for the corridor, the project, the community, and the environment. This week's public meetings and this webinar provides us with an opportunity to share what we've learned so far and gather even more input. We've heard consistent themes that will guide our approach as we move forward. Key concerns include improving safety by addressing narrow shoulders and short ramps, reducing traffic congestion during peak hours, and enhancing non-motorized transportation options such as biking, walking, and transit. Stakeholders have also highlighted the importance of minimizing environmental impacts, protecting air and water quality, preserving natural habitats, and ensuring the project enhances overall community livability and quality of life. The feedback we've received has been invaluable. It's not just about connecting with a large number of people, it's about how their insights and suggestions have truly helped to refine the project, making it more focused and reducing potential impacts. We've made significant progress in advancing the project in response to public feedback. This includes initiating a more detailed environmental review through the EIS, revising the draft purpose and need, and introducing new bicycle and pedestrian improvement elements. We've also expanded the range of alternatives to include non-highway options and developed a multicultural outreach plan with bilingual community liaisons. In addition, we've launched a pre-construction air quality monitoring project, increased public engagement through in-person outreach, and convened stakeholder workshops to collaborate on the vision for I-270. Lastly, we've identified funding partnerships to support other needed transportation improvements within the study area. Public input is essential throughout this process. At every stage, from brainstorming alternative designs to suggesting mitigation strategies, your voice helps shape the project to meet community needs and priorities. There have been and will be lots of opportunities for you to get involved. Ask questions or provide comments tonight or later through in-person meetings, online comment forms, email, or telephone hotline. Contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Stacia. As Stacia mentioned, there are lots of ways to get involved. We're going to go back to our polling here to help us by learning more about the project and providing feedback. Where should we be focusing our efforts? So how would you like to be engaged? Through webinars like this, through in-person meetings, through community events, through news stories, email updates, or if you have another suggestion, please, we're all ears. We are looking for ways to expand our reach through the ways that make sense. Because it is probably not too surprising that the top answer here is webinar, since you are in fact at a webinar. So glad to hear that that is a helpful way for us to provide information. We did have really good attendance at our in-person public meetings, and that has been a really rewarding part of our team's engagement through getting to talk to people face to face and really share our design plans and information and let you ask a lot of questions through those kinds of processes are really, really helpful. And then we are doing monthly updates on the project. So if you are interested in getting more regular information about the project, please do subscribe to the email list. And as Stacia mentioned, we have contact information at the end of the presentation so that you can find the different ways to get involved. So thanks for that. I'll give just another second for a couple more answers to come back, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Ashley to talk through some of the alternatives that we have developed so far. And again, if you have questions at any time, please feel free to type that in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to those at the end. All right, Ashley, thank you.
Yeah. So to address the travel time, reliability, safety, freight, transit, and bicycle and pedestrian challenges along the corridor, we evaluated 7 primary alternatives for improving I-270, along with a no-action alternative. And while doing nothing isn't viable, it serves as a baseline for our analysis. The alternatives include variations of similar elements like replacing outdated infrastructure and bridges, repairing pavement, widening shoulders, lengthening ramps, reconstructing Vasquez Boulevard interchange, and adding pedestrian bicycle improvements. The alternatives specifically differ in lane configurations on I-270, ranging from keeping the current 2 lanes in each direction, adding 1 highway lane, and adding 2 highway lanes in each direction. So after evaluating these alternatives, we are refining and evaluating in detail 2 alternatives referred to as build alternatives that add 1 travel lane in each direction. These 2 build alternatives are the 3 general purpose lanes alternative and the 2 general purpose and 1 express lane that accommodates transit alternative. Both of the build alternatives replace outdated infrastructure and bridges, repair pavement, widen shoulders, lengthen and improve on and off ramps, reconstruct Vasquez Boulevard interchange, and add pedestrian and bicycle improvements. The build alternatives can be constructed mostly within CDOT right-of-way and will not require displacements. The build alternatives vary in how the new highway lane would operate. One would be a general purpose lane like what is out there now. The other would be an express lane, which could be used by buses and high occupancy vehicles for free and by trucks or other drivers that choose to pay a fee. We recommend these instead of the other alternatives because if the project does not add an additional lane in each direction, the travel time and reliability needs would not be met, and it would not improve transit or freight operations on the corridor. And adding just a bus lane does not improve travel for freight or other traffic, and demand does not warrant a dedicated lane for transit. Also, adding 2 lanes in each direction does not meet the needs as well, largely because I-270 is a short corridor, only 6 miles, and I-70 and I-25 do not have enough capacity to process additional vehicles from 2 added I-270 lanes in each direction. I-270 would back up from the ends and actually worsen congestion compared to only having 1 lane in each direction. Through our engagement with the public, we heard a strong desire for enhanced bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure across the corridor. So in response, we've developed a comprehensive approach that addresses both corridor-wide and location-specific needs, ensuring safer and more accessible transportation options for all users. First, on a corridor-wide level, we're including future-ready bridges designed with wider sidewalks and enhanced lighting, new bicycle and pedestrian overpass to allow crossing over I-270 between Quebec Street and Vasquez Boulevard, and 3 opportunities for improved wayfinding signage and lighting to improve connectivity and safety. Next, we've identified 5 specific locations for targeted crossing improvements at York Street and Vasquez Boulevard, South Platte and Sand Creek Trails, and new RTD bus stop at Quebec Street and Sand Creek Drive intersection. If you have other ideas or problem areas we should address, please let us know.
Great, thank you, Ashley. We are going to initiate our next poll. So are there specific project elements that you would like to learn more about? So we have a couple of different options here: travel lanes, interchanges, bridges, some of the environmental components, transit, bike and pedestrian improvements, traffic operations, and looks like we've got some others in there. So if there are other things that you are interested in, please feel free to type those into the question and answer and let us know those things that you'd like to know more about or ask those questions tonight. We do have a couple of questions that have come in, but certainly you're going to have plenty of time to answer your questions. So if you want to type something in, we would be very happy to get to that in our second half of our presentation. All right, I'll give just a minute, and you can vote for as many of these as you want to. So if you want to know things about every aspect of the project, vote for all of them. You can definitely do that. And we are always looking to help explain or how they're working and any of the technical details that you may have questions about, or if you have suggestions for things that you think would be improvements for any of these project elements, we are open to all of those too. And there are, again, lots of ways to provide feedback that we'll get to at the end of the presentation. All right. We have one more poll here. Following here is, are there anything that you can think of that you think would improve the project or our outreach opportunities? Are there other ways that you would like to get engaged, or are there other things that we haven't thought about that the project really should be addressing? Or just any other ideas that you have that you think would make this a better project for the community or for the traveling public? And this is another one where you can type in your information here, and we will start to see some different ideas populate. And again, feel free to type in questions if you have them. And this is one we'll leave it open for a bit. So if you are a slow typer, we will be able to catch up here as well. All right, I'm gonna leave this for just a minute for the typing. Oh, looks like we got some typing catching up now. After we're done with this one, and again, we'll leave it open if you want to continue to put information in here, or if you want to put it into a comment form, that's another great way to give us suggestions. And I'll give it just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to turn it over to Basil Ryer to talk through that environmental analysis process. All righty. And I just see a couple questions here. I'll try and remember to get to those in the Q&A as well. But if you, again, want to type anything in directly into the Q&A, please do that. And now, Basil.
Thank you, Mandy. So protecting the environment is at the cornerstone of this project. Key environmental areas of focus include air quality, water resources, community amenities such as recreational resources, aesthetics, and businesses and employees. We are committed to minimizing this project's environmental footprint while meeting our transportation goals. Transportation improvements also present many benefits to the surrounding community, which traditionally has been underserved by transportation investments compared to other areas of the Denver metro area. The I-270 corridor serves as a vital economic link, supporting local businesses and ensuring efficient freight movement. By reducing congestion and improving reliability, this project will help sustain regional economic growth. And it is important that this project enhances and accommodates all modes of travel. This includes better connectivity for pedestrians and cyclists, as well as improved transit options, ensuring that the corridor serves everybody effectively. Our team is currently evaluating the potential environmental impacts associated with the project alternatives. The impact analysis involves several key steps to ensure responsible project development. Those include analyzing the construction site footprint to understand the affected area, considering operational changes to assess long-term effects, determining potential impacts on the environment, properties, and the community, revising, design, or adjusting construction methods to minimize or avoid these impacts, and developing and implementing mitigation strategies to address any unavoidable effects. The image shown is an example of this process, looking at the proposed design of the I-270 bridge over the South Platte River. To protect the environment, the design team carefully evaluates how the bridge interacts with the surrounding land and water. For instance, the bridge spans the waterway and floodplain to minimize impacts to the river. Additional considerations in this example include looking at the property access and trail connections to ensure permanent access, and look for options such as construction detours to reduce disruptions during construction.
Basil, we had a couple of questions that I think this one might be a good time to pause on right now before we go to the next poll. If you could just go back one slide. And we had a couple questions about the land that was going to be needed and how we determine that given the amount of land that's there. And I thought this might be a good visual to explain how we look at the land area that might be needed.
Okay. So a lot of the land around here is within CDOT's right of way. And what we would do is we've gone out, we've surveyed, and found that, again, most of this is within our right of way. And with that, there's only a few areas around maybe some of the ramps and things where additional land would be needed. We've also evaluated impacts on businesses, impacts on trails and things like that, and really try to minimize any of those impacts to the surrounding areas.
Great. Thanks for that. And I think that that was a comment, and I think it's, accurate observation. There's not homes that are right up next to I-270, so we don't really anticipate any displacements through this project. So minimal disruption directly to property. So now we're going to go back to our poll and looking at some of the environmental issues that you think are the most important. We are going to be looking at more than 20 different resource areas, but we've identified a few here in the poll of ones that we've heard pretty commonly, from aesthetics to air quality, environmental justice, some natural areas, wildlife. And if there's something else that you're really concerned or interested about that isn't on the list, again, please feel free to let us know there, and we will definitely address it. And if any of this sparks any additional questions about impacts that you're concerned about, we are really happy to answer those as part of our Q&A session as well. I'm going to leave this one open for just a minute, and then we have one more poll about some of the enhancements that you might want to see in the project area, environmental or community enhancements. Then we'll get to those here next. But again, these are the issues that we should be focusing our attention on, and it looks like we have hit most of the marks here in terms of the bigger issues. And are definitely, like I said, addressing these and many more as well. But these are some of the ones that we have heard from previous outreach are some of the more important ones to the community. All right, let's go on to the next one. And this is another one where I'll give you a minute to type some things out, because these are just suggestions. So if there's any ideas that you think of that would help enhance environmental or community resources in the area, this is your time to be as creative as you like. We're always open to hearing ideas and really looking for creative ways to make this project both compatible with and sensitive to the surrounding community and environment. I'm letting that catch up. See, one of the suggestions is partnering with environmental organizations in the planning, and we have been working with a lot of community and environmental organizations to share resources and share ideas, and we do have some community and environmental groups that are really helping us figure out how to come up with some mitigation or enhancement strategies that make a real difference in the community, and also provide an opportunity for us to work together, because there are a number of different organizations already working in the area. So through this process, we have developed a lot of partnerships and interests with other organizations. I'm going to give just a couple more minutes here, and then we're going to move into question and answer. So again, if you have any questions that are on your mind that you'd like our team to address, we are happy to do so. And we have quite a bit of time left. We're right on time with our presentation, about the halfway through mark, and then we've got some time here for question and answers as well. I do have a few questions in the queue, but we certainly, I think, are going to have plenty of time to address more if you have them. So please feel free to type in any burning questions you might have. All right, I think we will move on to questions, and I'm going to take one from this slide right now before we move on, and over to you, Basil. How will wildlife be affected by the project?
Thanks, Mandy. So there is a pretty significant, or there is wildlife in the area. Again, we are directly adjacent to the Sand Creek Greenway, and this is a movement corridor. We will be looking at what animals are presently in the area, and then making sure that we are trying to protect wetlands, wildlife, vegetation, everything that's needed for that wildlife in this urban area to be able to survive. When we were out doing some of our wetlands delineations, we actually saw some signs of beaver in the area. So we know they are out there, and going to be making sure that we are taking that into consideration as we are doing not only our design, but our active construction, looking at how we can minimize the impacts during construction.
Great. Okay, we're going to go into the rest of our questions here now. So if we can advance that. Great. We do have a couple of questions about land. I think Basil answered some of it, but still some additional information about if you did need property, would you notify people what your needs would be and when would that happen? Is that Dave, something you want to mention, or Basil?
Yeah, I can answer that question. Yeah, so currently we're in a preliminary design phase. We're expected to get a DEIS at the end of this year, so end of 2025, and then move into a final EIS towards the end of 2026. So generally, those notifications to landowners aren't done until the design is finalized. So it'd be around that 2026 timeframe once we have a ROD. However, we can meet with people who are concerned and show them our current preliminary designs and show them what we're thinking currently, so that they're aware of what our current design plans show.
Okay. We have a question about some new Department of Transportation memos and some of the different things that have been coming out of the new administration, and wondering about what that might do to affect federal funding or affect the project in general or its viability. And I think we all have questions about that. And I don't think we have a lot of information new to share. Our team is just moving on with the same path that we have been on, and we haven't been notified that anything is changing. I think there is a lot of information floating out there that we're all trying to process, but right now we are just we are staying the course with the work that we have started, and we have not been given any information to suggest that we do anything differently with our EIS or with the project at this point. So I don't know if Dave or Stacia, you have anything that you want to add to that regarding potential new policies that are coming out?
I don't have anything to add, Mandy. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a question about some of the travel lanes, and really specifically about what's happening with the two ends. So there are express lanes on I-70 and on I-25, although that one's not here in the question, but specifically between I-70 and I-270, if we did have this project with either a general purpose lane or an express lane, how do they connect to the express lanes and the general purpose lanes on 270? And I don't know if Rachel, I mean, if Ashley or Rachel wants to answer that, or Dave.
I could start off with just saying with the design to the part of the question about how we are showing 3 lanes and it drops into 2 on either end. We have laid out the design, so it should be pretty intuitive as far as like if you're heading eastbound on 270 towards Quebec and you're heading towards I-70, that right outside lane would drop at the Quebec off ramp today. So that then allows the 2 lanes to continue on. The express lane option, the express lane would drop further back and have to merge into a lane, just like you had stated in your comment. But as far as how it would connect to, or if there's an update to the I-70, I-270 express lane direct connect, I would have to pass that off to someone else.
Yeah, and I can take that one. As far as what we are been coordinating with FHWA and CDOT as to how to approach projects that aren't included directly in the I-270 project, we are coordinating on both ends with the I-25 project that's happening and keeping tabs on what the I-70 project is doing. So in the case of the express lane alternative, we have looked at both the express lane connecting directly into that new connection at the I-70 end, as well as we have done a sensitivity analysis, as Ashley said, should that express lane need to drop. So we are working closely, but it is our understanding that that project is progressing and should be able to move forward with our project. I don't know if Dave, if you have anything further to add.
No, Rachel, thank you. That was great.
All right, I have a question here about the infrastructure, and specifically that this section of highway was built on an old landfill and it has a lot of dips and a lot of it doesn't seem very stable. How are we going to be dealing with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can take that one. So when CDOT started the CIS process, we immediately started looking at the landfill, and even a little bit before that, we were looking at solutions for the landfill. We're currently evaluating that as part of the preliminary design. We've thought of many options, and we're currently conducting a kind of a cost-benefit analysis to see which scenario or which design alternative would be best for the landfill situation. This highway was built on a old landfill in the 1960s, and you're correct that it's continuing to show signs of settlement. So the project is well aware of that. We know the boundaries of the landfill. We've mapped it out. We've found a lot of information that helps us come up with the best solution to the landfill issue. And we're hopefully by the end of the EIS process, we'll have a final solution that we can share with everybody.
All right, well, thank you, Dave. That is the end of the questions that we have in our queue. So I may just end with one that we've been asked a lot through our process and has been on a lot of other people's minds, and that is, why does this process take so long, and is there anything we can do to speed it along? And I don't know if Basil or Stacia or David wants to answer that question.
Yeah, I can take that. So we started this project in 2020 under the NEPA umbrella of an environmental assessment, which is a little less complex of an environmental study than what we're currently doing, which is an environmental impact statement. So one of the reasons why this takes so long to go through an environmental impact statement is because it's very process oriented. We have to make sure that we're being very transparent with via meetings like this. We need to tell the public what we're doing every step of the way. We need to thoroughly analyze all of the environmental resources and come up with solutions that are viable to protect the environment. And generally, an EIS takes many years. There is a hope to streamline this particular EIS because of the work that we've done in the EA back in 2020 to 2023. And getting an EIS done within 2 to 3 years is actually a very streamlined process compared to other DOT EIS processes throughout the country. So although it is taking quite a while, we think that we're going to set the bar on being able to actually get it done quicker than some other EISs have taken throughout the country.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for attending tonight. As we mentioned, we have some contact information here that we will leave you with. So there's lots of ways to stay engaged with the project. We really appreciate your time and your input here tonight. If you want to receive regular updates, as I mentioned, you can sign up for the email distribution list. You can send us an email. You can request a presentation with any of your community groups or organizations. And then those email updates are going to provide updates on where we're going to be in the community. And as we were throughout 2024, will be lots of different places. So there'll be lots of ways that you can engage with us in person, online. You can call the hotline. We are always open to hearing your ideas and listening to anything that you have to say. So thank you so much for being involved and for being here tonight. And as a reminder, the website and the materials from our in-person meeting are going to be on the website. The recording for this meeting tonight and the public meeting materials are available online. And we will also be publishing all of the questions and answers that have come up through the webinar, as well as the information on the polls that you all participated in today. So thank you again, and have a great evening, and thanks again for attending.